Things for Jeep's iconic SUV have become a little bit complicated a few years ago when Ford revived its icon, the Bronco. Suddenly, the Wrangler was no longer the sole off-roader on the market, and that was a signal for Jeep's engineers to start working on upgrades. The new version was presented recently with new styling and loads of new features. But does the 2024 Jeep Wrangler solve the 6 biggest issues of the Wrangler's previous model? Let's find out. Number 6. Pricey Hybrid Powertrain. The hybrid-powered Wrangler 4xe has been around for a while, and from today's perspective, it looks like Jeep has made a really good move by offering the legendary off-roader in an electrified iteration. The setup is great in many ways, starting from the respectable max power and torque, which go all the way up to 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Besides good driving dynamics, this setup also offers a decent max range in the all-electric mode. It goes up to 21 miles thanks to the massive 17 kilowatt-hour battery pack. However, the thing that troubled potential buyers was that it was only possible to get this powertrain in higher trim levels. Practically the cheapest way to get a Wrangler hybrid was to pick the Sahara trim. That model cost nearly $59,000. Starting with the 2024 model year, the hybrid powertrain is more accessible. It's available already in the Sport S trim, which starts at around $51,700, more than $7,000 less compared to the last year's most affordable Wrangler 4xe. So, we have no doubt that the hybrid option will become a way more interesting proposition to the interested buyers. Besides Sport S, the hybrid powertrain will be available in the aforementioned Sahara trim, as well as in the Rubicon and the newly introduced Rubicon X trim. As for the other powertrain options, the Wrangler continues with familiar units, starting from the good old 3.6-liter V6 with 285 horsepower, which is also the only Wrangler that you can get with a manual gearbox. The offer continues with a 2-liter Turbo 4 with less power than the V6, but notably more torque. Of course, the Rubicon 392 is still on offer with a massive 6.4-liter V8 that puts out around 475 horsepower. Now let's say a few words about fuel economy. The 4xe won't impress you with 20 mpg combined, but on the other hand, it offers 21 miles of the range and 49 mpg equivalent in the EV mode. For comparison, the base V6 can return up to 20 mpg in the city and 24 mpg on the highway with the automatic transmission and mild hybrid system. The Turbo 4 is even better as it returns up to 22 mpg in the city. As expected, the V8-powered Wrangler is by far the thirstiest option, with average fuel consumption that goes around 13 mpg in the city and 17 mpg on the highway. Number 5. Undersized infotainment screen. The Wrangler may be a rugged off-roader, but even a vehicle like that needs modern-day features. For years, Jeep has been criticized for not updating the infotainment system. Just a few years ago, the small 5-inch unit was still part of the standard equipment. The 2022 update brought some changes, but things still weren't good enough. The base 7-inch and optional 8.4-inch units were still no match for the Bronco's available 12-inch screen. So, Jeep's management finally decided to do something about it. The 2024 model finally comes with a completely new 12.3-inch touchscreen, as well as the latest Uconnect 5.0 software. The new infotainment system is faster, easier to use, and equipped with more features. Among modern-day essentials, you can find wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto standard in all models, while Jeep is especially proud with the new navigation system, which now includes more than 2,000 map trails across America, so you can go off-roading in a way safer and more convenient way than before. Number 4. Lack of essential safety features. Once again, we can talk all day long about how the Wrangler is just a rugged off-roader, but the lack of standard safety features has always been a little bit of a disappointment to us. Although there was a relatively decent list of optional safety features, base versions featured nothing but a rear-view camera. Thankfully, Jeep has decided to change the course with this update and equip the refreshed model way better. With the 2024 model year, the entry-level Sport trim will still remain relatively basic, but it'll get an updated rear-view camera and electronic roll mitigation. Also, base models now feature side curtain airbags in both rows of seats, while the second row outboard seatbelts come with pre-tensioners and load limiters. The next in line, Sport S adds a couple of important upgrades such as forward collision warning and adaptive cruise control. Finally, higher trim levels also include standard blind spot monitoring and park assist, something that you can also opt for in lower grades. Number 3. Awkward seating position. For some reason, almost all body-on-frame vehicles have problems with the seating position. It looks like engineers don't simply pay enough attention to this aspect of designing, and as a result, the ergonomics are usually far from great. The Wrangler had the same problem because even though the seating was high and great in terms of visibility, it was still hard to find an ideal position behind the steering wheel. One of the key reasons was the lack of adjustability, and it looks like Jeep has finally addressed this problem. Namely, until this year, the Wrangler was equipped with manual seats with relatively modest adjustability. Now a big change is coming as the 2024 Wrangler gets power-adjustable seats. We're talking about seats that can be moved in 12 ways, which translates to a way higher level of adjustability compared to the previously manually adjustable seats. What's even more impressive is that 12-way adjustability isn't reserved for just the driver, but for the front passenger as well. All this should result in way better ergonomics, which leads to a more convenient ride. Speaking of convenience, the 2024 model also brings a new 7-inch digital gauge cluster for more convenient readouts of the most important parameters. We already talked about the new infotainment screen, which is way bigger than before. However, the dashboard design remains the same, which is something we salute, because its upright, rugged design looks and works great. Even the center stack remained largely unchanged with massive physical controls that are super easy to use. Finally, let's not forget to mention that Jeep has also added an active noise cancellation feature that can keep the cabin quiet enough so you can even take a phone call while off-roading. Number 2. Poor on-road ride quality. From its early days, the Wrangler has always been designed with off-roading in mind, without any compromises, and believe it or not, some think that's a drawback. If you read online car reviews, you can often find car experts criticizing Jeep's on-road ride quality, describing it as harsh, firm, uncomfortable, uncoordinated, hard to drive, etc. Well, hello, this is an off-road vehicle that features solid axles on both ends. It's an ultimate off-road machine, and it wasn't meant to provide you with smoothness and refinement, and we're so glad that Jeep engineers didn't do anything in terms of making the Wrangler more civilized. Ford engineers did that with the Bronco by offering an independent front axle instead of a rigid one, but that only compromised off-road potential, while the on-road side remained largely the same. All in all, we're glad to announce that the Wrangler isn't changing its nature for the sake of refinement, because that's not the point of the vehicle. Instead, the company did quite the opposite and even installed some heavier duty parts to increase the off-road potential. More details about that are coming in the next section. Number 1. Not enough room for 35s. The Wrangler has always been an excellent off-roader, and if there's one thing to complain about, that was the fact that it wasn't always easy to install bigger tires. Although the Rubicon trim was available with an optional package that includes 35-inch tires, such an upgrade on the standard model wasn't an easy thing to do. That's why we're glad to share with you that the 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon now comes standard with Data 44 full-float solid rear axle. It replaces the semi-float Data 44 axle with the technical solution that's more common among heavy-duty trucks, and that actually brings a couple of important benefits. First of all, it's now possible to install 35-inch tires much easier. Second, this significantly increases the towing potential, and as a result, all models can now tow over 5,000 pounds, no matter the powertrain choice. As we've just mentioned, the previous model years were available with the optional package that allows the installment of bigger wheels. Starting with the 2024 Wrangler, there's a completely new trim level called the Rubicon X. We're pretty sure that you won't need any upgrade if you pick this one, because the list of standard equipment includes 35-inch tires, beadlock-ready wheels, upgraded steel bumpers, off-road camera, and a full-time transfer case. To remind you, the standard Rubicon features a part-time transfer case. What's also important to mention is that the Rubicon X will be available not just with the V6 and Turbo 4, but also the 4xe variant with the plug-in hybrid powertrain. Speaking of off-road upgrades, let's not forget to mention that the mid-range Willys trim also receives a couple of important upgrades. It now comes standard with 33-inch all-terrain tires, higher ground clearance, and a standard locking rear differential. Moreover, this will also be one of the trim levels available with the plug-in hybrid powertrain. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.